Welcome back to a brand new episode of NH Unscripted. We are coming to you from the Taj Mahal-like digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. My God, it's Capness in here. I got my Nehru jacket on, my bell-bottom pants, and my platform shoes. You know your job. Kick back on the waterbed, which reminds me, my first waterbed had no baffles in it. That was an experience. Anyway, I digress. Kick back on the waterbed, light the incense, get those lava lamps going, because we have a beautiful show for you today. Get out those transistor radios. You'll find us on 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord, 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. And our URL is nhtalkradio.com. I need to thank my sponsor. We are so privileged to have the law offices of Shaheen and Gordon as our sponsor of this show, because everyone should know a good lawyer. Ernest, would you agree with that?
I need one right now.
Everyone should know a good lawyer. And that might come from personal experience. I don't know. Look it up. Maybe call my parole officer. He'll let you know. Anyway, everyone should know a good lawyer. And they do some tremendous litigation over there. They are all throughout this state: Concord, Dover, Manchester, Nashua, Keene, Peterborough, even have a satellite office out there in Hawaii. Their website is shaheengordon.com. Get out your pencil, write it down, put it with a magnet on the fridge, shaheengordon.com. Their number is 603-614-5560. I am in the presence of royalty. Ernest Thompson's in the house. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and thank you for that welcome.
What? I believe you've earned it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You can be as humble as you want, but this is not the place to be humble. We invite all egos here. Are you are on a tour with...
I'm on a sporadic tour of my new play called Archie Parrish's Parting Words, and our goal is to do it in New York, because I'm going to be back on Broadway this year doing my play called, what's it called? Oh, On Golden Pond.
There you are.
And so I hope to do it on off nights in New York. But in the meantime, I'm having a blast. We've done a few performances around New Hampshire. We have more to come. And I'm just having a ball doing it. So, I'm glad that we're having a chance to talk about it a little bit, because I think your audiences probably will respond to it. If they respond to you, they'll respond to this play.
Huh. That's interesting. You said you're doing a sporadic tour. Why are you that?
We're doing one-night stands, if you'll pardon the expression. Partly because it's a very unusual piece. It's a one-man show. I play 12 characters in it, and it's ridiculously funny. So we booked it in a couple of theaters, and now more theaters are reaching out to us to do it. And I like the idea of doing it, what I call sporadically, because it gives me a chance to continue to grow it in between. Yeah. And also, it's kind of exhausting.
I would imagine. Yeah, we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah. So,
where did the idea come from?
Now that is a story.
Thank you.
2 years ago, I said goodbye to my longest-serving friend, Holly, who lived in North Brookfield, Massachusetts, where I lived as a child. We met on the first day of kindergarten when we were 4 years old, and we were never not in each other's life after that. I was told that she was going down, and I knew it. She'd had some challenges with her health, and I went over to see her 2 days before the end, and I got to sit on her bed and hold her hand, and we swapped stories, and, she was in and out of consciousness, but I made her laugh, and 2 days later, we got the call from her now widower saying that she was gone, and if there was any way we could go to a memorial service for her at the old Congregational Church in North Brookfield, where I went as a child, I said you'd have a hard time keeping us away. So we drove back over to North Brookfield. We got there just before showtime. I had occasion to need to go backstage, and the husband ran up to me and he said, "Oh, thank God you're here." I said, "Yes, that's how I love to be greeted." He said, "The minister needs to talk to you." And I said, "The minister's going to have to wait. I have a higher calling." And when I emerged from the restroom, the minister said, "You're up first." And I said, "When you say up first, what do you mean?" And he showed me the program, and it said, "Eulogy, Ernest Thompson."
You had no idea.
No one had mentioned that small detail to me. And I said, when will that happen? And he said, "Well, I'm going to give an opening welcome and a prayer, and then you'll be up." And he said, would you like me to introduce you? I said, I'm pretty good at introducing myself. What will be my cue? And he said, Amen.
Okay.
I found my beautiful wife, Karen, in a pew, and I said, apparently I'm giving the eulogy in about 90 seconds. So, but it got me thinking. First of all, I'm pretty good on my feet, and I was able to wing it. And I just happened to have my novel, which had recently come out, called The Book of Maps. I took it up to the pulpit with me, and product placement, of course, but also because I use Holly Stackpole's name in it. And I've used her name several times in several movies or plays or books that I've written. It's just a beautiful name, and she was a beautiful person and still lived on the same street she lived on when we were little kids. So I read a little bit from the book, and I talked about Holly. I could have talked about her for hours because she was such an important part of my life. But it got me thinking, why do we do all that? Why do we go to funerals? Why do we have memorial services and celebrations of life? For lots of different reasons, of course, but if ever there were a start for a play, that was it. And so Archie Parrish, in Archie Parrish's Parting Words, gets in the eulogy business, and he gets talked into doing a eulogy for someone he truly did not care for, and he doesn't hold back in expressing his affection for this guy. And a drunk guy comes up to him and says he wants Archie to do a eulogy for his wife, and Archie doesn't want to do that because that's not what he does. But the guy is so insistent that finally Archie says, when is the funeral? And the guy says, how do I know? It's hard to predict. And Archie said, you mean she's not of the deceased classification yet? And he says, not yet. But he ends up giving her eulogy too. He goes to see her in the home, and then he starts looking in the paper for other eulogies to give, because it's his theory and mine that everybody has hidden gold. And wouldn't it be great if someone could come along and prospect that and pull out the secrets, the qualities?
Dude, I think you're creating a new business.
Well, maybe. I'm not sure I can stay with it, but so it becomes hilarious for a while until his therapist, Archie's therapist, who should be in therapy, suggests that maybe that's not such a great plan to be going around to funerals. And Archie says, well, sometimes there's an open bar and free food. So, but that leads to a whole series of characters that I get to play. And it's such a blast, Ray, because I play 12 different characters. They're all in some degree of craziness, and the audience eats it up because it's ridiculously funny, but it's also deeply, deeply moving.
Yeah.
And like everything I write, I don't know if our mutual friend Lowell Williams, the great playwright, mentioned it to you, but I have this unique theory that everything I work on, whether it's as an actor, director, or writer, has to have what I call the 3 H's: heart, humor, and hope. And if it doesn't, I'm out. I'm not interested in being part of that, because I don't want to read a book or see a play or a movie and then want to slit my throat afterwards. Yeah. I especially in these times, I don't know if you see the paper at all, but there's a lot of stuff going on in our culture right now.
I do.
So it is escapism, but it's also essential to just, kind of point the arrow at there is still reason for hope in our culture.
Yeah. 12 characters. 12 characters. Why 12? And are some of them closer to home than others for you?
Well, Archie's pretty close to home. He's a smart, wise guy, but he has stuff to learn. The rest of them, if you can picture it, Ray, it's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She could have gone straight to the castle or whatever it was, and and found out that the wizard was a little guy hiding behind a curtain. But no, it's important that she meet the Munchkins, that she meet the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion. They all turn a prism, and so we get different views of her. And that's true in Archie Parrish's Parting Words. It's essential that each one of these fascinating challenges come along for him because he learns from it. And that's really the lesson of the play.
So this is an arc for him.
It is, yeah. It's a journey that he goes on. What we discover in the course of it, with the help of the crazy therapist, is that Archie has a secret. And to me, that's the secret of great literature, whether you're reading it, seeing it, listening to it, I know something you don't know, and I'm going to slowly reveal the clues, and you can put them together. In Archie, not to spoiler alert, when his wife died, his beloved love of his life, he couldn't speak. And when it was her turn, he couldn't get up and do it. And so that sort of hung over him for several years. And so he's got unfinished business. And I think a lot of people will relate to that of, is there stuff that we're not doing in our lives and we should be doing?
Yeah. Man, oh man, what a segue. Hang on, we got to pay some bills. Oh, we are just over and over and over again. I am your Dave Clark 5-like host, Ray Dudley, coming to you from the YMCA-like digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. I can smell the pool chlorine from here. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your Sony Walkmans. Who the heck knows what the plural is? 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. Ernest Thompson's in the house. We have a lot to peel back. We will be right back. Welcome back to NH Unscripted. We are your classical gas. That makes me your host. Yeah. Mason Williams. Yep. I remember those days. Anyway, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your transistor radios. The poor kids got the 8 transistors. All us rich kids got the 16. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. I am having the privilege of speaking with Ernest Thompson man play. Let's get into some dates and times, because then I want to really peel back a lot of stuff about how you got it and character development and all that.
Well, I know the answer to that.
Hello, Dolly.
I'm doing Archie Parrish's Parting Words at the Rex Theater in Manchester.
Nice.
On Sunday, September 7th. It's a 2 p.m. matinee. And their theory there is that people who want to see real theater, they like going to matinees. And I like it because it means that people with our color hair can drive home afterwards and it's not dark. but mostly, it's an adventure I take everybody on. And so on Sunday, the 7th of September, I hope that a lot of your listeners will come see our play, because we're all going to have a blast together.
The Rex is a beautiful venue.
It is. It's the greatest.
You performed there before?
I haven't, but I have friends of mine. I do a lot of songwriting and musician friends of mine. I recently done a song with a guy named Griffin William Sherry. I don't know if you know that name.
I do not, sir.
He had a band called The Ghost of Paul Revere, and we saw him, and we've done a song for a new movie of mine. And another buddy of mine, Bruce Marshall, a great blues singer from Maine, will be at the Rex this coming fall. So yeah, it's a sweet venue. It seats about 300, I think, which is my kind of theater. I love a house that size.
Can I ask you, as much as you've done, when the first time you staged Archie, were you nervous at all? Did you first of all, did you do preview stuff to kind of see if people are going to even buy into it? Or did you just write it and have confidence that, nope, it's going to fly, we can do it? And then were you nervous?
Yes, a little bit, yes, okay. And not so much.
Sorry about that.
Everything I write, I share with my wife. She's my in-house audience.
Well said.
It passed muster for her. But then I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And, I say to other writers, because I do these workshops, not only for playwrights, and screenwriters, novelists, attorneys, but also my wife and I have a prison program called Rescind Recidivism, and I get to work with a lot of really interesting storytellers who are inmates.
My goodness.
But there's never such a thing as ending a story. A book is finished when it's published, and I've been down that road, and I have another one coming, which we'll talk about in a minute. A movie's finished when it's in the can, but a play, as far as I'm concerned, is a living thing as long as the playwright is living. And, here I am.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So 47 years later, I'm still fine-tuning on Golden Pond because it's my privilege. I drive the publishers crazy.
Are you serious about that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because times change, topical references change, but also the writer changes. And so I've learned things about On Golden Pond through the last 47 years that I wouldn't have known when I was 28 when I wrote it.
Are you saying you're still tweaking it?
Yeah.
You do?
Why not?
So any current edition might be not even, well, obviously it has some resemblance to the earlier ones, but that's, yeah.
In some cases, you'd have to have a magnifying glass and play Sherlock Holmes to go in and find the changes.
Yeah.
But sometimes they are character-driven. Sometimes they are topical. My wife, who has been called by my publisher as the best eagle eyes in the business, she will find productions that are not following the rules and are doing productions, presenting the play using the wrong script. And so it's been a fascinating journey for me in that regard. And the company that produces the acting edition,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm their most favorite playwright because I do make changes and I insist that we do the new version of it. I'm not interested in what that kid who was 28 years old when he wrote it in 1978 thought. Yeah. I'm interested in what me at this age, what's going through my mind. So, so it's a living thing. And to go back to your question about Archie Parrish's parting words, I fine-tune it every day because I can.
Seriously?
Yeah. And
is that an OCD thing, or you just, I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean, are you... It's just because you love it so much that you want to present the best version you really can? Or are there things that you're finding, even from feedback from the audience, that you're like, oh, that's gold?
First of all, I'm really good at what I do. So,
welcome.
I'm playing all three roles. So I'm playing the guy who wrote it.
Yep.
I'm playing the director, and I'm playing the actor who's playing all of these different roles. So we all work together. Incidentally, we all hang out with the same woman, so that works out pretty well. But
the production parties must be really intimate.
It's the greatest, yeah. Small but effective. But I'll give you an example. I have a friend who is not young, and he sort of leans far to the right, and he saw the play in Jaffrey, New Hampshire, the Park Theater a couple weeks ago. And he took umbrage over a reference to Nancy Reagan. And I thought, well, that's interesting because, first of all, I'm delighted to find out there are any conservatives who remember Nancy Reagan, let alone still revere her, because the Republican Party is a little bit different than it used to be.
No kidding.
But
No kidding.
More to the point is... Who knows who Nancy Reagan was? That's what's so fascinating to me, because I've been in this business for a long time and I've been on this earth for a long time. But the sands of time sort of get washed away by the incoming tide.
Correct.
And Nancy Reagan is a name that has faded into the past. I face it all the time because I wrote a play and a movie, as you know, called On Golden Pond. It's pretty famous, but that doesn't mean that younger people have ever even heard of it. Yeah. And I understand that because that's just the progress of time. But and I came into the business at an age, in an era, the late 60s, early 70s, when there were giants. And the kind of movie star giants we don't really create anymore. Paul Muni and Spencer Tracy and people like that. And I got to interact with some of them, or I heard stories about them because they had perhaps gone on before I came along. So I'm, first of all, blessed that I had that opportunity to know so many of those people or learn from them. But, here we are. If you stop 10 people on the street and say on Golden Pond, in New Hampshire, where I think it's kind of required viewing, 9 will know what it is.
Yeah.
A young kid will say, I think I've heard of it. Maybe my grandparents liked it. But if I say Katharine Hepburn, I might get a blank stare. And Katharine Hepburn was only the biggest star ever and won 4 Academy Awards.
Only.
But time has passed. And people say, do you mean Audrey Hepburn? I'll say, no, I mean Katharine Hepburn. But now, Jane Fonda is still in the news at 88, but that's just what happens. That said, I don't know a lot of young actors. I don't know a lot of young musicians just because the page turned. And as I said a minute ago, I'm not sure we create those kind of stars that used to exist. Yeah. Partly because of social media. We know too much about them now. They're overexposed. But also because there are so many more venues, so many more outlets, streaming and cable show, and social media that everybody's got a favorite something, and that doesn't mean that the person sitting beside him in Starbucks is going to know that same source. So
this is fascinating. The things that, when you say that your wife, Karen, will kind of play the Sherlock Holmes role here and making sure people are using does the distribution company not make sure that?
That's a great question. They're supposed to. What's happened now, which is happening a lot in our culture, is big corporations have bought little companies, and so there used to be Samuel French and there was Dramatist Play Service. Those were the two big publishing. They've both been bought by big companies, and now they're merging into one. So the attention paid is not quite as diligent as it used to be. What's hilarious in a macabre way is that companies sometimes will do a pirate production of On Golden Pond or another one of my plays, and then they'll put it online, and they'll say auditions are coming up for On Golden Pond in East.
That's chutzpah, baby. That's chutzpah.
Or come see our show, or these are reviews, and then Officer Karen, my wife, will contact this theater and say, "Do you really have a license to be doing that?"
The royalties can't be that much on it, can it? For a small company not even be able to afford it?
That's an excellent question, and I'm not sure sometimes whether it's can they afford it. It's do they feel like paying it?
My God!
And so that happens. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We're in battle right now with a couple of companies that have done illegal productions.
Man, hang on, folks, hang on. I don't like spiders and snakes. That makes me your Jim Stafford-like host, Ray Dudley, coming to you from the Hollywood Square-like digs of WKXL Studios in Concord. You know I like to sit in the center square, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your Sony Walkman, NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. We're having fun talking to Ernest Thompson. We'll be right back. Welcome back to NH Unscripted, where rainy days and Mondays always get us down. Thank goodness it's Wednesday. I'm your Carpenters-like host, Ray Dudley, coming to you from the Gong Show-like digs of the WKXL Studios in Concord. I am not the unknown comic, but hey, I've got plenty of other things I can do. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM. 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. Ernest Thompson's in the house, and we are peeling a lot of onions here. Peeling them back. Do you want to continue to talk about your one-man play, or do you just want to shotgun stuff here?
I want to say a couple of things. First of all, you mentioned the YMCA a minute ago. In 1975, the last time I was on Broadway, we had done a play called Summer Brave at Kennedy Center, and we were going to Broadway, and it was a big deal, and big deal for me. And I stopped in Philadelphia to hang out with my brother, and I took the late train, and I got to New York and realized I'd forgotten my key to my apartment, and the super wouldn't get out of bed to let me in. So where did I spend the night? At the YMCA.
Seriously?
That was my triumphant
Easter egg, baby.
Yeah. So, I just want to make sure that that we make clear that I'm doing this play called Archie Parrish's Parting Words, and the one chance immediately that folks can see it is at the Rex Theater on September 7th at 2 p.m. Sunday, September 7th. But we can talk about anything. And I mentioned a minute ago that I'm going back to Broadway this season. I think I should do a play every 50 years, whether anyone needs me to or not.
Perfect cycle.
But and On Golden Pond was last on Broadway 20 years ago, and that was an all-black production starring James Earl Jones and Leslie Uggams. So it's about time. But and most people don't know me as an actor, especially in New Hampshire, where I've lived for the last 30-something years. But that's how I started. And I started on a soap opera called Somerset, which was a spinoff of Another World. I starred in a couple of television series in the 70s, both very forgettable. One was called Sierra, one was called West Side Medical. But if people are curious about me as an actor, I've done a couple of movies that we shot up in the Lakes region, Independence. And I just shot another one last season with my buddy Gordon Clapp, another New Hampshire lad from.
I was going to get to that.
From
Thank
North
you.
Conway.
Yep.
But if people want to see me live while I'm still alive, come down to the show on Sunday, the 7th of September.
You're the busiest person I know. What do you mean while you're still alive? My God, you get 90 projects. Go out to your website. Well, someone should go out there besides me. But it's loaded. It's loaded with things that are going on. Books that are being written and plays that you're in, directing, and funding. And okay, so enough rambling for me. Broadway. Let's talk about Broadway just for a second. Is the allure of Broadway something that triggers you? Do you enjoy Broadway as opposed to, and why? What's so great about that as opposed to, say, a regional theater?
Well, there's really no difference other than Broadway still is the Mecca. Yeah. And Broadway has changed so much in the years I've been in the business, and now it's really essential to have movie stars in plays if you want them to succeed. So that's where we are now.
That's a pro and a con, though, right?
It is, very definitely, yeah. And so we're now reaching out to a handful of possible co-stars for On Golden Pond. I'm playing the old guy this time because you may have noticed I've aged into it.
It escaped me.
Yeah, but so we need a star. We need a female star. And when you think about it, you can make your own list in your head, and your audience can too. There are so many women, beautiful women in their 60s, Oscar winners, Tony winners, Emmy winners. So we have a wish list, and we're just going down that list. As soon as one says yes, we're in business, and I'm hoping to have the play open by Christmas time this coming season. But
wait, you've already booked the venue?
Well, you can't get a theater until you have your production in place.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'll be a Broadway theater. Whatever's available at that time.
Okay.
You know, I have my favorites. I prefer a smaller house, but when I was with the play I just mentioned, Summer Brave, we were at what was then called the Anta Theater, which is, I think, on 52nd Street. But, I love the smaller theaters. And
I do, too.
So, anyway, what would be poetic is if we went to what used to be called the Court Theater and is now called the James Earl Jones.
Oh, man. That's full circle right there.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to direct, act? I mean, you do it all, but do you have a preference? Would you rather just act and have somebody else direct, or are you like, nope, I'm going to direct because I love to direct? And then, where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, spectrum might be the word. I consider all variations on the same theme of storytelling. So it is more direct for me, if you'll pardon the expression, to just do it myself. Rather than play the game of post office or ghost, I whisper in your ear and hope that you're going to pass the message on to the next person.
Yeah.
By the time it gets around to the actors, it may be completely different than what I intended. And here's a perfect example. I've never seen the old guy in On Golden Pond played the way I wrote him. And I've had infinite conversations with other directors saying, yeah, but don't forget, he was a college professor, Ivy League school, University of Pennsylvania for 40 years. Let's see that part of his character. Let's see that larger-than-life inspiration for his students. I don't usually see that. Didn't see it in Henry Fonda. Nothing against it. I'm not giving back my Oscar.
I was going to ask you then. Well, okay, this is right in my wheelhouse. I love to talk about this kind of stuff. So you wrote a character a certain way, and you've never seen anybody fully encapsulate that.
No, I haven't.
So how do you think you can do it? How, even though you wrote it, doesn't mean you can still translate it to the stage. And even then, doesn't mean that it's going to come across to the audience. So what are you thinking you're going to bring different to it, if you don't mind me actor to actor here, what are you going to bring across in a different way, a different flavor?
Well, first of all, everything I write is ridiculously funny because I believe if you can use humor,
that's funny.
Yeah, if you can make an audience laugh, you can take those people anywhere. You can take them into the scary woods. You can take them into situations and conversations that they may not think they're going to be comfortable with. But by then, you've got them. You've got them eaten out of your hand. So that's true with On Golden Pond. But what happens is a lot of times actors and directors will pick up that script and just play the comedy and sort of veer away from the underlying themes. When I wrote it in 1978, the word Alzheimer's wasn't part of our vocabulary.
Oh,
I just knew I was writing about a guy who was drifting away. Now, of course, everybody knows much more more than we ever wanted to know about Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. So that's a big issue. Another big issue in On Golden Pond is what I mentioned a minute ago. I think Norman Thayer was that professor. And if you were lucky, I was. If your listeners were lucky, they had that one male or female who just opened doors for and turned on the lights. And you thought, wow, now I understand something I didn't understand 5 minutes ago or last semester. So he's that guy. So if you accepted that's the premise, that he was that larger than life, total beacon who told great stories of literature, what happened to him 15 years ago when he retired? He lost his audience. And he has only his long-suffering wife and the mailman who shows up to communicate with. I think that affected his clarity and his concentration. So he's like a spider just waiting for someone to come along. The mailman, his daughter, Chelsea's boyfriend, but really the 13-year-old boy, because he can throw books at him and he can have those conversations that he's been missing. So, yeah, I bring all of that to my performance. And what happened was I did it 6 years ago up at the Winnipesaukee Playhouse, close to where I live in the Lakes region, and a Broadway producer came up to see it. So that's why that production is going to New York.
So you just dropped that cookie crumb right there. Broadway producer just happened to come by and see it. First of all, I don't know how often that happens, but I'll accept that. So
it happens in our dreams.
Exactly, or depending on what I'm smoking at the time. Yeah, I know. We'll park that right there. So your character, do you think, is this just another layer that you're going to add to it, or is this like a total reconstruction that you're going to try to bring?
No, it's an interpretation.
Yeah.
And I directed Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews on a live television production about 20 years ago. Plummer came the closest.
You cracked me up.
Because
love you.
Plummer was larger than life in real life. And so I was able to harness some of that. And I think James Earl Jones, as I mentioned, I didn't direct that production. He certainly had the size and the voice, but I didn't believe him as a college professor of literature.
Interesting.
So, and also, I don't know if you've picked up on this, Ray, but I am stunningly handsome. So,
I did. I noticed it.
And the music
there
place.
was a glow when you entered the building.
Where was I going to go with that? We'll continue that conversation.
And I'm going to say there's a kind of hush all over the world. I am your Carpenters Like host, Ray Dudley. Who else sings that? Hey, it's in the back of my mind. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your transistor radios. Yes, this is why I get out of bed in the morning. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. Ernest Thompson is in the house, and he's being honest. Yeah,
right.
We got some more to talk about. We'll be right back. Welcome back to NH Unscripted. We are kind of your Judy in disguise with glasses. I'm your John Fred-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the not-so-overly ostentatious digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. A little nod there to Norm Nathan, for those of you who are old enough. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your transistor radios, and 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. Ernest Thompson's in the house. We're chatting business, acting business. You said James Earl Jones did not hit the mark as far as you were concerned with the character. That is that's crazy. So, which just goes to show that we're all human, right? I mean, we see things through different prisms, but even the best of us just miss the mark sometimes, right?
Well, and also it's very egoistic of me to say that because I love James Earl and I was so grateful and so honored to be able to work with him and have him do my play. But it's more of a conversation of the finesse of the character and my interpretation. And my interpretation is not necessarily superior to anybody else's. It's just the right one because I wrote the play. So what can I tell you? But what I want to say about James Earl is he was a worker, and you're an actor. You understand this. Yeah. When you do a play locally, you're lucky to get a handful of rehearsals. We had been doing on Golden Pond 5 weeks of rehearsal. We did 3 weeks at the Kennedy Center. We were probably our second month on Broadway, and he called me into his dressing room one night, and he said, I just got that line, because he'd been doing it for 100-and-something performances. So pursuant to our conversation about Archie Parrish's parting words, and why do I keep finessing it? Because I learn stuff. Yes. Every time I do a run-through, a rehearsal, I find something that it wasn't. I have the power to change it, and sometimes it's minuscule, and sometimes it's pretty major. I changed some blocking yesterday when I was rehearsing in my barn because I thought, I know how to pinpoint that. I know how to draw attention to that particular moment. It was a very poignant one, but to me, that's part of the luxury of it. So when you ask, do I have a preference? It's all the same to me. When the idea comes to me, when I start writing the story, I picture how that character should be played, even if it's a woman, even if it's a child or a gay person. I want to be inside that person's head and heart, and that helps me write the story. And then directing it, then it's just sort of bringing to the surface those qualities that I know are in there. So, but I want to go back to talking about how handsome I am.
Yes, thank you. I was going to bring that back up.
On Golden Pond, when people see me doing on Golden Pond with, let us say, Helen Hunt or Laura Linney, who are people who are on our list.
Name dropper.
I want them to think, wow, these two people are still getting it on. Because that's a different play. It's a different play than people who are decrepit in a death's door. Because I want the audience to look at it and think, no, it shouldn't be happening to them. I saw George C. Scott do Willie Loman many years ago, and he was so George C. Scott, so vibrant and vital. And that's how I play Norman Thayer, because I want the audience to look at him and think, you shouldn't be getting lost looking for strawberries. Mm. You should be on top of your game. And then it falls upon the female, Ethel, the Hepburn character, to be his champion, to be his guardian. And so it just raises the quality, the level of the urgency of that story. It's the same thing with Archie Parrish. We develop a rooting interest in him, because we know there's something wrong and we want him to succeed. And so he takes his Wizard of Oz journey, or his Alice in Wonderland journey, his Odyssey journey, and he meets all of these curious characters who teach him something. And I love that for the audience to look at it and think, wow, I know that. I could do that in my own life. And I got to tell you that I've been out on the road for the last couple of years with my novel called The Book of Maps. And I've had so many people come up to me wanting to get their book signed and say, On Golden Pond meant this to me. It was the story of me and my grandfather, or me and my wife, or me and my daughter. And I was doing a book event down in Delaware, and two gentlemen came up to me, one older, and he said, I wish I had known when I was young the stuff that you've taught me in that book. I would have been a better father. And a young guy came up and said, I'm a new father, and I'm going to take your lessons to heart.
Oh, my God.
So that's when you feel you've succeeded, and it's true with Archie, too, because everybody, and we've had so many responses to it. It's been really extraordinary, standing ovations and people just not wanting to leave the theater because they were so involved in the story. And I hope you'll come see it, by the way.
Yeah.
But because people relate to it. But they relate to it in 300 different ways because they find their thing. And this is a conversation I've had with Lowell Williams and other playwrights. If you write something that is personal, pretty good chance it's going to become universal because then it becomes everybody's story. Yeah. That's been true, and that's what's been so gratifying for me with my book tour. Of people want me to know their story that came from my story.
That's humanity right there. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I first of all, please give the dates, the time again. It's at the Rex Theater.
Rex Theater, September 7th, Sunday matinee, 2:00. Be there or be square. Yeah. But I want to speak briefly about the movie I did last year with my buddy Gordon Clapp.
Please do.
It was adapted from a play that I wrote before on Golden Pond. It's a one-act play called The Constituent. And I loved writing it, and I stayed up all night on my 28th birthday determined to write something, to finish something so I could define myself as a writer, not just as an out-of-work actor who played a lot of tennis. And I did. And it fell into the right hands. It was taken under option. And we did a production for television of 3 one-act plays collectively called Answers, and The Constituent is one of them. In the television version, my character was played by Burgess Meredith, and Gordon's character was played by Ned Beatty. And it's fascinating to me. You talk about the process. That's 48 years ago. A lot has changed in our culture, in our lives, in our country, and in my head and my heart. So somehow when I changed the play into a screenplay, I switched the politics. And so now the character I play, who's this crusty old backwoodsman who's been writing letters to his senator for 35 years, they're not always cordial. I say they're more profane than profound. But he leans to the left. He's become progressive. And the senator is, unfortunately, like too many senators, he doesn't really have an opinion about anything. And he tries to defend, we try to get stuff done. You don't always see it. And my character won't let up on him. But it's really a study in people with nothing in common finding common ground. And I think, and the song I wrote with this great Griffin Williams Sherry is called Cross the Bridge. Good time to have a song like that. Good time to think about, come on, isn't there a way we can find some kind of connection in our country right now? And there's a lot of that in Archie too. A lot of it is, looking at someone and thinking, this person is maybe not going to be my best friend forever, but I bet that person has qualities. And you can say that about almost everybody. You can't say it about everybody. You can say it about a lot of people.
The trailer's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer's really funny. I was surprised by it because I had no idea really what to expect, but I can certainly relate to the frustration that of your letter writer, 1,200 letters he writes to his senator.
Yeah.
And when he finally shows up, and you don't recognize who he is, that's so cool. That it's such a great one-liner in there.
Well, my character says most people sit around being mad, but he does something about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Good.
You also have I wanted just to touch briefly on you. You have I don't want to necessarily call it a sequel on Golden Pond.
We're actually calling it a continuation because it picks up 45 years later, or how many ever years later we get our financing. So it's all new characters except for Billy, the boy. And I've stayed in touch with Doug McKeon, who played the boy in the movie. He's not a boy anymore. He's, I think, 59 now. So he'll come. But it starts with the Chelsea character, the Jane Fonda character's burial at sea. And it turns out she has a cousin, a new character, who's come to get rid of the place because nobody wants it. And I see this happen with so many families now. It happened in my own family. What do you do with that family property? And it turns out there's a developer who's tearing down all the houses and cottages on that shore of Golden Pond and going to put in a resort. And there's one crusty old guy, which I'll play in the movie. I don't know if you remember on Golden Pond, if you've ever seen the play, but Charlie the mailman has a brother, Tom. That's the character I play. And Tom has a ramshackle farm, which will, on the property that'll become the back nine of the golf course. And he ain't selling. So it's a double love story of two characters who are not young and two characters who are, but it's called Home on Golden Pond for a reason, because I believe that all of us have that place in our hearts that we want to go to, even if it's only mythically, even if it's only in our imagination, based on nostalgia or experience.
I can't believe that. We're done already? Are you kidding me? God knows I love my music. I'm your Loggins and Messina-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Car 54-like digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM, 101.9 FM for the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. It has been a privilege speaking with Ernest Thompson today, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Great.
Get out and see a show. Come on, it's summertime in New Hampshire. Grab your favorite squeeze, go out to dinner, go see something. September 7th at the Rex. Yeah, you'll reward yourself.
Make it lunch, 2 o'clock show.
There you go. Thank you.